Mary had always dreamed of a life beyond the dusty streets of Joss. Raised by her mother, Joyce, a woman who worked tirelessly to provide for her, Mary knew the hardship of life all too well. But despite their struggles, her mother's love and sacrifices were the foundation of everything Mary knew. As Mary grew older, she promised herself that one day she would escape this life. She would marry a rich man, live in luxury, and never look back. It wasn't long before her dream came true. She met Samuel, a wealthy businessman with a big heart and an even bigger wallet. He was kind, charming, and everything Mary had ever wanted. They quickly married, and Mary found herself living in a mansion, surrounded by luxury and showered with gifts. But little did Mary know, this fairy tale was about to take a dark turn. With everything she had ever wanted now in her grasp, Mary felt a pang of guilt. She had promised her mother that she would never forget her. Mama worked so hard for me, Mary thought. She felt the need to give back, so she invited her mother, Joyce, to come live with them in their grand mansion. Joyce was overjoyed at first. She had always supported Mary's dreams, even when she could barely make ends meet. Now, her daughter was successful, and Joyce thought this was a new chapter in their lives. She imagined a life filled with peace, family, and love. But when Joyce moved into the mansion, things took a sharp turn. At first, Mary welcomed her mother with open arms, but it didn't take long before the tone of their relationship began to change. "Mom, I need you to clean the kitchen again. It's not perfect," Mary would say coldly, eyeing the small details in the house. Samuel, who was always distant, would make passing remarks as well. "Joyce, make sure the house is spotless. You know how I like it." He rarely offered to help, and it was as if he expected Joyce to take care of everything in the house. Joyce, who had always done everything for Mary, began to feel trapped. "Is this what I worked so hard for?" she wondered. Yet she didn't say anything. She was too grateful, too afraid to speak up. The tension began to build. One evening, after an exhausting day of cleaning, Joyce sat in the corner of the kitchen, silently wiping her hands on her apron. Mary entered, and without looking up from her phone, casually remarked, "Mama, the bathroom is still dirty. I asked you to clean it earlier today." Joyce's patience snapped. "Mary, I've done everything you asked. I'm tired. I'm too old to be doing all this work." Mary shot her a look of disbelief. "You're complaining? You're here, living in luxury, and this is how you thank me? You should be grateful." Her words cut deep. Mary's voice dripped with arrogance, and for the first time, Joyce felt like she didn't belong in her own daughter's house. She retreated to her room, tears welling up in her eyes. "I thought this was supposed to be my reward for all my sacrifices," she thought bitterly. Days went by, and Mary's behavior grew worse. She would make comments about her mother's age and old-fashioned ways. Samuel would chuckle along with her, making light of the situation. One evening, as they sat at dinner, Mary and her husband shared a mocking laugh about how inefficient Joyce was. They joked that she couldn't keep up with the modern world. Samuel added, "She's lucky to be here. She should be grateful." Mary joined in. "Mama, you should just let me handle everything. I don't know why you're still trying to act like you're 20 years old." Joyce was stunned. The woman she had raised with love and care now mocked her in front of her husband. She quietly pushed her food around on her plate, fighting the tears that threatened to fall. It wasn't long before Joyce felt like a servant in her own home. Mary's commands became more frequent, and her coldness grew. She started treating her mother like an employee rather than family. "You need to make sure the house is clean by tomorrow, Mama. It's embarrassing when we have guests over and the house is untidy," Mary would say with a sharp tone. Samuel, who had always been dismissive, offered no help. He made comments like, "She's lucky to have a roof over her head," referring to Joyce as if she were a guest rather than a part of the family. Joyce's world, once full of love, was now filled with silence and resentment. She couldn't bear to confront her daughter, but the weight of her daughter's harsh treatment was becoming unbearable. One evening, after yet another long day of cleaning and preparing meals, Joyce broke. Mary had been particularly cruel, and her husband had made yet another jab at her mother. That night, as Joyce prepared for bed, she muttered under her breath, "May you never know peace, Mary. May you never find happiness for as long as you continue to hurt me." Mary, who was in the other room, overheard her mother's words. "A curse?" Mary thought with a bitter laugh. She can't be serious, but little did Mary know, that curse would set into motion a series of events that would unravel her life in the most unexpected way. The very next day, something unexpected happened. Mary's business deals started falling apart, her investments turned sour, and even Samuel's once thriving empire began to show signs of weakness. For the first time in her life, Mary felt powerless. The wealth she had accumulated so easily began slipping through her fingers. As Mary's life began to unravel, she thought back to her mother's curse. It couldn't possibly be real, could it? But things kept getting worse. Her friends started distancing themselves. Her reputation in the city began to tarnish, and soon, her once luxurious life felt like a house of cards ready to collapse. Mary couldn't ignore it anymore. Her mother's curse was real. It wasn't just bad luck. It was as though everything she had built had turned against her. She went to her mother, desperation in her voice. "Mama, please, please tell me how I can make it right. I've lost everything. You were right. I was wrong. I hurt you. And now look at me. Everything is falling apart." Joyce looked at her daughter, the woman she had raised, with a mixture of sadness and regret. "Mary, it's not too late to change, but the road ahead won't be easy. You can't just expect everything to go back to normal. You hurt me in ways you will never understand." Tears welled up in Mary's eyes. "I'm sorry, Mama. I never realized how much you meant to me until I lost everything. Please help me. Please forgive me." As Mary tried to rebuild her life, she found that forgiveness wasn't something that could be bought or forced. Her mother had been scarred, and it would take more than just words to heal the damage. She worked hard to regain her mother's trust, but it wasn't easy. But things were still changing. Mary began to feel the weight of her choices. As the days passed, she noticed a change in her relationship with Samuel. The man who had once been her escape had become distant and cold. Their relationship, once perfect, was now strained. Mary's relationship with her husband began to fall apart as well. Samuel, once supportive, had started to resent her. He began staying out late, his business losses putting even more pressure on their marriage. The woman he had once loved was now a stranger. The image that Mary had spent years building, of wealth, beauty, and success, crumbled. Her business ventures collapsed, her social circle faded, and the mansion she had once been so proud of became an empty shell of what it once was. Samuel finally confronted Mary. "I can't do this anymore. I don't recognize you anymore, Mary. You've lost yourself, and us, along the way." With those words, he left. The man who had once been her escape had become the first to abandon her. Alone and broken, Mary was left to pick up the pieces. She started rebuilding her life, step by step, with her mother by her side. But it wasn't easy. The years of mistreatment had left deep scars. Joyce was reluctant to forgive her. Mary realized that the wealth she had once craved was nothing compared to the love of her mother. She had been so consumed with what others thought of her that she had forgotten the one person who truly loved her unconditionally, her mother. But the damage was done. Mary's relationship with her mother would never be the same. It took years of hard work and humility for Mary to understand that true happiness doesn't come from money or power. It comes from family and love. In the quiet of the night, Mary sat with her mother. the woman she had once hurt. The years of fighting, of bitterness, had taken their toll, but in this moment, Mary finally understood. The curse was not just words. It was a warning that had come too late. As Mary and her mother sat together, she vowed never again to let ambition cloud her vision. The wealth she had chased so eagerly had slipped away, and now she knew that her mother's love was the only treasure that truly mattered. What do you think? Was Mary's redemption enough, or did she lose everything that truly mattered? Let us know in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe for more heart-touching stories. Thank you. See you next time.